you know, it's nothing wrong with that. The grain of the floor, the walls, the things on the walls, as you can see, as you descend to my studio. A million scraps of past shows. Too many, to be honest with you. I can't throw anything away. That's my problem. So it's all stored down here, not so neatly. Open up. There was a wall here, but we smashed through it to get easement to this space under the sidewalk. So here's one of my editing benches with about, if you can get a shot down here, about 200 of my films, collage films that I made when I was in graduate school. That's the way I worked my way through graduate school, to do light shows in clubs. I'm working hard in here, hours, many hours a day, most of the day, in fact, sorry to say. Caught up with the computers, there's 3 here. None work very well, but I managed to, try to keep up with my email. So, not that that's a big deal. And up into this area here, which is the archive per se. That's an archive, which I'm very proud of, which powers this whole 3-story media arts co-op. The film making has, I would say, even increased in activity. Many people are looking for archive films now. They become, I think the value is generally higher, though people could also say it's lower. I couldn't prove it. I, again, have my own lists and my own buyers, but it makes me happy to work with film and with my hands. This is one of the sections, geography and history. There's about 6 sections here. Pay your $12 at the Roxy to see Pasolini talking about St. Matthew, for example. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because we're funky, a low budget, small screen, not a great sound system, it's more of this idea of more of a brainstorming session, a salon where people can give and take and exchange ideas in a kind of a conversation or dialogue. An expression of a way of living. It's not somebody who's following the rules of the color wheel. But, not that that's bad, but it's actually, who cares about the color wheel? When people are being shot in the street or something like that, or in prison for being gay, or stopped at the border for being brown, and so on. So the thing is, this is more electricity and more force and more authenticity, and it's more crucial. Instead of really paying attention to what people on the ground are making, in other words, it takes a lot of time and money to make a feature film. But for those people who don't have that time and money, they still express themselves through motion pictures. I guess the idea would be, quote unquote, funky, informal, natural, handmade, human scale, distressed materials, done on the run, sometimes illegal, with a pretty big influence from underground sensibilities and subcultures rather than the system of European art. The personal storytelling, as you say. In my own case, I'm less interested in narrative, just so you know. But you can tell stories if you want. I'm more interested in thinking and thought and using camera as a way, like writing used to be, literature, like an essay or diary or letter. Those are good uses, and they're possible, and many people know that. The film schools are filled with people who are more interested in the industry now because the cost of living is so high in the United States. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But I left that behind. In other words, I'm not trying to destroy it as if I could, but I'm turning away from that proactively, self-consciously, and saying, this is another world. And by the way, the world of personal filmmaking is way, way, way bigger than the film industry, in case you didn't know, like by a trillion times. I don't know if trillion is the right word, but inestimable amount. I will say, though, a lot of people, many thousands, tens of thousands of students I've had, who have been in the industry, into a track, let's say, in school that leads to the industry, most of those people don't end up ultimately making their own work or making decisions about their own work. And certainly one of the uses is to make money and have a career. And so as an instructor, by the way, an educator, I don't necessarily put down those, just so you know, those people who go to school to get a job, because you cannot, in the United States, it's impossible to really survive, without work. Let's say you like the look of an automobile, so you become an automobile worker. That's the metaphor that I use. And you could be putting, nuts and bolts onto a muffler, as they pass by in the assembly line, and you could say you're in the auto industry, or you could say you're in the film industry. Right? But it's a little bit more, as I said before, this idea of this exploration of a culture that is underneath capitalism, thriving there, struggling there, not necessarily oriented like all compasses point north, but maybe pointing the other direction. And there's enough to create a show. There's enough to create 15 shows a season, for other cinema, plus Cinematheque, plus PFA, plus Canyon Cinema Salon. In San Francisco, it's just a very, what do you call it, a flourishing garden of film ideas. So that's what I want to be part of. The filmmakers don't necessarily depend on economic, what would you say, compensation for these screenings to make their livelihood. They do it, you could say, amateur is not quite the word, but non-professional is not quite the word, but outside of the industry, and some more power to them for being brave and thinking for themselves. Craig, I got a great shot for you. Shot. Take my word for it. People love this. Video finds real time. You might as well do a sports show, or the weather. But if you're shooting digital video of 60mm motion picture film, you're in heaven in my world. So watch this move. Here we have a fantastic film on the birth of radioactivity. I couldn't imagine an education film this good and this pretty. Of course, I made my own film called Spectrums and Spectrums about electromagnetism and sort of the whole field of applications and uses, not only industrial but also magical. That's where the Spectres comes in. So we put on the Kodak Paget, barely running but just serviceable. Thread her up. Take just about 33 seconds. I say I can get this film up here just as quickly as you can get a VHS tape and a VCR. May not be true. I'd say we're at 15 seconds now, 16, 17, 18, 19, and in 20 seconds we have this show on the road. Please don't, it's gonna be 25 now. Go!